Alright, before we even get into names, lyrics, or conspiracy theories, let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you saw someone openly disrespect one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop over and over for decades, and absolutely nothing happened to them? No diss track back, no public fallout, no industry punishment, no career slowdown. Because that's the part people skip over when they talk about Eminem and Diddy. Everybody focuses on the bars, everybody focuses on the shock value, but nobody really stops and asks the real question. Why didn't Diddy ever respond? This is a guy who built an entire empire on presence, on control, on making sure people understood who he was and where he stood in the game. This is someone who never liked looking weak, never liked being questioned, never liked being embarrassed. And yet, Eminem kept poking at him. Sometimes subtle, sometimes very direct, sometimes borderline uncomfortable. And Diddy just stayed quiet. That's not normal in hip-hop. And the deeper you look into it, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't about rap. This wasn't about ego. This wasn't even about beef. This was about power, and more specifically, the kind of power Eminem had that Diddy couldn't do anything about. Now, to really understand this, you have to understand how the industry usually works behind the scenes. Because most people think power in hip-hop is loud. They think it's diss tracks, beefs, chains, bodyguards, public arguments. It's not. Real power in this industry is quiet. It's phone calls that don't get returned. It's playlists that suddenly don't include your song. It's features that stop happening. It's doors that used to be open, suddenly feeling closed. That's how people get checked. In Eminem, none of that ever worked on him. From the moment he blew up, Eminem was operating in his own lane. He wasn't trying to be cool with everybody. He wasn't chasing approval from moguls. He wasn't moving around the industry the way other rappers did. He locked in with Dre, built his base, and then basically said, "I'll see y'all when I drop." And every time he dropped, it worked. That alone already made him dangerous. Because if you can't control someone's success, you can't control their voice. And Eminem's voice was loud, global, impossible to ignore. But here's the thing, independence alone doesn't make someone scary. There are plenty of independent artists who still get pressured, still get touched, still get moved around behind the scenes. Eminem didn't. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because the protection around Eminem didn't come from the industry at all. Back in the early 2000s, Eminem wasn't just dealing with rap beef. According to people who were around at the time, there were real-world situations happening. Not internet drama, not blogs, real pressure. And during that period, Eminem had genuine connections to respected circles on the West Coast, including members of the Samoan community, most notably the Booyah tribe. Now, this is where people get uncomfortable, because this isn't the kind of thing the industry likes talking about. These weren't label execs. These weren't public figures. These were people whose reputation came from loyalty, structure, and respect that existed completely outside the music business. When Eminem's manager Paul Rosenberg reached out during that time, it wasn't about clout or a feature. It was about keeping things from escalating. That connection later resulted in the 2003 track 911 with Booyah Tribe and Be Real. But the song wasn't the point. The message was. Eminem wasn't standing alone. And in hip-hop, word moves fast. Once it became clear that pressing Eminem meant dealing with people who didn't care about record sales, radio spins, or industry politics, situations cooled off real quick. Most artists in that position would have folded, checked in, paid respect, played the game. Eminem didn't. He stood his ground, and that told everyone watching something important. This wasn't just a rapper talking crazy. This was someone who had real backing and wasn't afraid to stand on it. And someone like Diddy, someone who understood leverage better than almost anyone in the industry, he would have clocked that instantly. But even that wasn't the moment that really sealed Eminem's reputation. That moment came during one of the most legendary behind-the-scenes incidents in hip-hop history. Early 2000s, 50 Cent is filming the In the Club video. This is peak era, one of the biggest records ever. Cameras everywhere, industry people everywhere. Everything is smooth until it isn't. Out of nowhere, Suge Knight shows up, uninvited, rolling deep. Now, at that time, Suge's reputation alone was enough to shut rooms down. People didn't just fear his influence. They feared what could happen if things went left. Tony Yayo talked about it. The game confirmed it later. Security froze. Executives didn't want problems. Most people backed away. Eminem didn't. According to multiple people who were there, Eminem stood his ground. Calm, no panic, no yelling, no theatrics. just confidence, like someone who wasn't afraid of what might happen next. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. Suge left. Not because Eminem backed down, not because things cooled off naturally, but because pushing further would have meant bigger problems than anyone wanted to deal with. That moment changed how people saw Eminem, because it showed something very clear. He wasn't scared of reputations. He wasn't intimidated by power plays. He wasn't someone you could bully into silence. And yes, Diddy was watching. Now fast forward a little, 2002. Eminem signs 50 Cent to Shady Records. This wasn't just a business move. This was a shift in the balance of power. 50 didn't come into the industry clean. He came with a real reputation. He survived serious attempts on his life. He had deep roots in New York, and he built his name on never backing down. When Eminem and 50 linked up, the industry took notice immediately. This wasn't a duo you could quietly pressure. Not individually, definitely not together. But what made this alliance really serious wasn't just influence, it was loyalty. This wasn't a relationship you could break with money. It wasn't something you could disrupt with backroom politics. 50 respected Eminem as a person, not just an artist, and that respect went both ways. Anyone who came at Eminem had to deal with both of them, loudly, publicly, relentlessly. From Diddy's perspective, going after Eminem wouldn't just be rap beef. It would mean instant conflict with Eminem and 50 at the same time. Two artists with massive platforms, nothing to lose, and no fear of industry backlash. That's not a smart fight. And this is where Eminem starts doing something almost nobody else dared to do. He kept calling Diddy out, not emotionally, not randomly, strategically, over years. Back in 1996, on Effing Crazy, Eminem was already taking shots at Bad Boy. At the time, people brushed it off as underground battle rap energy. But looking back, it feels like the opening line of a very long story. Once Eminem hit mainstream success, the shots got clearer. On the Marshall Mathers LP, he dismissed Diddy openly, no hiding it. On I'm Back, he referenced Diddy's relationship with Jennifer Lopez in a way that wasn't playful. It was deliberate. It was uncomfortable. And what happened? Nothing. No diss track, no escalation, no visible retaliation. In hip-hop, silence doesn't always mean strength. Sometimes it means caution, especially when the person doing the dissing doesn't stop. Album after album, year after year, Eminem wasn't throwing shock bars for attention. He was applying pressure. Psychological pressure. He was challenging the idea that Diddy was untouchable, and every time Diddy stayed quiet, that image cracked just a little more. Then 2018 happened. Machine Gun Kelly went at Eminem. Eminem responded with Kill Shot, a track designed to shut the conversation down completely, and it worked. But buried inside that diss aimed at someone else was a line that touched one of the most sensitive subjects in hip-hop history. Eminem referenced it casually, then followed it with, "I'm just playing, Diddy. You know I love you." But by then, it was already out there. Reaction videos exploded. Forums went crazy. Industry whispers got louder. And again, silence. No lawsuit, no public denial, no counterattack. That's when people really started asking questions. If Eminem was bold enough to touch that subject publicly, what else might he know? And why didn't Diddy want that conversation anywhere near the spotlight? Here's the thing, Eminem never needed the industry's approval. He didn't need favors, he didn't need validation. His success didn't rely on the system, and that made him untouchable in a way moguls fear. Then, November 2023 hit. Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit describing serious allegations against Diddy. The case was settled quickly, but the public impact was massive. Suddenly, old lyrics hit differently. Old references felt heavier. Fans went back, replayed bars, connected dots, and once again, silence. Then, July 2024, Eminem drops The Death of Slim Shady. And on Fuel, listeners immediately caught the wordplay. Sharp, deliberate, uncomfortable. The timing shook people. The song dropped before public headlines exploded, before official moves were announced. Too many fans, it didn't feel random. It felt like a warning hidden in plain sight. When charges were later announced, a lot of people had the same reaction. This didn't come out of nowhere. Eminem had been circling this for decades. So why is Diddy scared of Eminem? Not in a cartoon sense, not because of threats or muscle, but because Eminem represents something Diddy couldn't control. Independence, real backing, unbreakable loyalty, and zero fear of saying the uncomfortable thing. Engaging with Eminem meant legitimizing conversations that couldn't be shut down, and once those doors opened, they couldn't be closed. That's why silence was the move. So maybe Eminem wasn't trolling all these years. Maybe he was doing what he's always done, saying the uncomfortable thing and daring anyone to stop him. And the fact that nobody ever did, that might tell you everything you need to know. Now I want to hear what you think. Was Eminem just being Eminem? Or do you think he knew exactly what he was doing the whole time? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.